This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. The Sports Bash is live today at Top Golf at Ocean Casino Resort. You drove what, 197?
197. Not too great.
222 is 221?
221.
221 is the leader right now. The winner, the longest drive, gets an overnight stay at Ocean Casino plus a $100 gift card for your stay, or you can do whatever the heck you want with it. But it is draft day, and Andrew DiCecco from InsideTheBirds.com is here. Let's bring him in and get his thoughts as the latest up-to-date information on his thoughts on the draft. What's going on, Andrew? I feel like I just saw you, man.
Hey, Mike. How's it going, man?
Everything is good. I know it's been a long day for you, a lot of draft, but this is what draft day is for you draft guys. Let's get into it here. A lot of buzz about Philly and 22 and how possible it is they stay there. In your mind, how possible is it that they will just stay and play at 22?
Well, I think they're going to try everything they can, Mike, to move ahead, especially if you see a corner like a Terrion Arnold slip down the board, an offensive tackle like Washington's Troy Fautanu. Those are two guys right there that I'm highlighting personally that might be targets. And if they fall within striking distance, I think the Eagles would be as aggressive as anyone to try and get them. But it takes two to tango, as you know, when it comes to trades. And if they're not able to find a trade partner, they're going to have to. I don't see them staying at 22. I think they might trade down.
Yeah, so 22 is the spot there. If, the guy they like, obviously they can move back. I want to ask you about moving back because everybody who listens to this knows you know a lot about the second day and third day picks. Do you like the idea of getting more second day picks, maybe early third day picks, as opposed to moving up?
I do, and especially when you look at it in terms of how deep and rich this class is in terms of offensive linemen. I like some of the safeties. The Eagles need a safety, and I don't know how apt they're going to be to grab one in round 2, and then they don't have a third-round pick. So that, to me, and I mentioned this to you this morning on Bird 365, that's a money round. There's 2 linebackers off the top of my head and multiple safeties that would qualify as significant upgrades for the Eagles that they're going to probably miss out on unless they get an opportunity to kind of move around the board there, pick one up.
Yeah, so, we were talking with you this morning on Bird 365 about the possibility, Andrew, of moving up to get an Arnold or a Mitchell, and you would have to trade probably 50 or 53, or taking someone at 22 and just taking the corner that's not named Arnold or Mitchell at 50. You like Max Melton from Cedar Creek, right up the road from where we are. You say you would actually like that scenario better than moving up.
I would, because there's more value in round 1 at offensive line than there is corner. There's a significant drop-off at tackle and guard at the top of the second round at 50 and 53 where the Eagles will be picking. And I think you can get a player who isn't much of he's not as steep of a drop-off as some may think from a Terrion Arnold. I'm talking about Max Melton here, of course. That I think that would probably be the best case scenario. You get a high-end corner who can play inside or outside for you, and hypothetically you get a starting offensive lineman in round 1 that has some versatility.
Andrew, a lot of people like 16. A couple reasons why I think 16 makes sense, and I talked about this last hour, is Seattle's there. You go up to 16, you might get a player that you covet. Seattle also doesn't have a second-round pick, so they might be willing to tango with you there. Does 16 in a trade up make more sense, or is there another spot on this board that you think is a more have more of a possibility for Philadelphia to move up to go get?
Well, it depends on who the player is. If you want Quinyon Mitchell, you're probably going to have to get as high as 12 with the Denver Broncos. I think he can go 12, 13 with the Raiders, or even 15 with the Colts. 16, you're looking at maybe Terrion Arnold. He could very easily go to the Raiders, but if Quinyon Mitchell goes at 12. So then, to me, that player becomes Troy Fautanu, who I've sort of penciled in with Seattle Seahawks. Tackle, he played left tackle to guard at this level more than likely. I think he can play some right tackle. 6'4", 315. The Eagles really like him. That, to me, would be the guy.
Yeah, Troy Feltano is, I told you this morning, Andrew, if there's three guys that if they tomorrow we're talking about, he's one of the three that I would be pretty happy that they ended up with. I think, he's a day one starter, right? He could plug him right into that right guard spot, and then 2 or 3 years down the road when Lane's possibly finished, he can bounce out to play right tackle if you needed him to. Now, he might find himself as a Pro Bowl level right guard, similar to what Landon Dickerson did, where you thought of him as possibly being something, and he was so good at it that he just stuck at the position. He's that kind of player.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. Really good athlete, checked off every single box along the pre-draft cycle, elevated his stock arguably more than any offensive player in this class, because now you're talking about him potentially even going in the top 13 or 14 picks as an undersized tackle, by the way. He does have 34.5-inch arms and an over 84-inch wingspan. And I think that he is the quintessential Jeff Stoughton lineman in that he is versatile, he is athletic and quite nimble, and he's really good in space.
Leitu is the edge rusher. Obviously, the neck issue. If he didn't have that neck issue, is he even in the conversation for them?
No, if Latu doesn't have the neck injury, he would be, by all accounts, the first defensive player off the board. He still may be. We have to see what the Atlanta Falcons are thinking. They could go corner, they could go Byron Murphy, or they could go Latu at 8. That's sort of how I envision it.
Now, that's an interesting point. You mentioned first defensive player. If Philadelphia wants to get a defensive player, and a lot of people think corner's the spot, edge rusher, is it because it's just not a great defensive draft? A lot of times you see edge rushers, corners going in that top 10. Why not as many being mentioned in that area this year?
Well, there's not a lot of blue-chip players in this class, and that's a term that's thrown around loosely and also incorrectly a lot of years. And I think that this year you're not seeing, like the Dallas Turner is the guy who's number one on a lot of folks' boards, but for all his athletic traits and how tantalizing that is, he's also very unrefined as a pass rusher in terms of hand usage and just developing a pass rush plan and having more of a sound attack. But the athletic traits are, they're enough to get him taken in the top 12 or 13, where in most drafts, he would probably be a late first-round pick, I would think.
Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4 from InsideTheBirds.com and the Inside the Birds podcast. And you guys, after every pick tonight, Jeff and Andrew will give reaction. And if there's more than one pick, all throughout the draft, you can check out their reactions on the Inside the Birds YouTube channel and all their platforms. And, of course, Andrew breaking down all the stuff here. You mentioned the two, Arnold and Mitchell. They're the two top corners. What's the drop-off to the next group, in your opinion? Is it worth making the move or just stay at 22? I know you said Melton at 50. I'm talking about if you just stayed at 22, that next group of guys, Kool-Aid, and I guess Nate Wiggins would be in there.
Yeah, I prefer Kool-Aid over Nate Wiggins. I'm not a big Nate Wiggins guy. 6'1", wiry frame, 174 he played at last year. He weighed in at 182 reportedly at his pro day. Not overly physical. You worry about how he's going to handle some of the more physically imposing wide receivers that can maybe bully him on the perimeter. You look at Emmanuel Forbes last year and how he fared at a Slater build, and you wonder if that's going to be a foreshadowing to what he may be expecting at the pro level. But for all that, he's very technical. He's athletic. He's fluid. He has really good long speed and excellent ball skills. But that being said, I think the Eagles need to seek more for their top boundary corner, and I wouldn't go with him. If I had to choose between him or Kool-Aid, it would be Kool-Aid.
I know we talked about this morning as well. In your mock draft over at InsideTheBirds.com, it was JT Latham that you were going with at 22. His prognostications have gone all over the place in the last 24 to 48 hours here. But is he a guy that you think has a shot to be there in that 22 range? Is he a trade-up kind of candidate for you?
Right, and on some big boards, he's 25, he's 24 in some. Some haven't gone top 5. So he's kind of all over the board, but the only thing that matters is not what the mock drafters put out there. It's what NFL personnel folks think and how they view him, as you know. And for me, I think he can fall anywhere from 15 to where the Eagles are at 22. You could even go higher depending. But I think that there is so many teams need quarterback help that is going to ultimately push some of these talented tackles that would otherwise go even higher further down the board and could create some value for the Eagles. I really like J.C. Latham, right tackle. He played some right guard early in his career. Extremely physical. Heavier, by the way. He's 6'7", 342. So that's a little bit heavier for a tackle. But I think that he has the makings of being able to kick out to right tackle once Lane Johnson decides to call it a career.
It's a wild day, as always. We had Sal Powell on last hour. He's with the Giants. He said they are really trying to get up to number 4, but only they don't want to do it ahead of time. They want to wait to see what happens so the Giants could have a new quarterback. Washington could have a new quarterback. The NFC East could really be turning on its head tonight, and Philadelphia could be making some crazy moves as they always typically do. Andrew, what about a wide receiver? Would that blow you away?
That, besides quarterback, would be the two positions that you could afford to ignore, especially in the first round, especially when you have two well-compensated wide receivers already on your roster that are young. And you look in the second round, there are countless receivers you can get. You can get a Roman Wilson from Michigan, 5'10", good slot guy, really good short area quickness, good route runner. Ricky Pearsall from Florida, 6'1", 190. One of the best vertical slots in this draft, one of the best route runners in this class. Or if Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky is your cup of tea, you could go that route as well. Mid-second round guy, really good on the move, sort of like a Deebo Samuel. Not a proficient route runner, but I think that could be worked out at the pro level.
The Brock Bowers murmurs, are they just that, or is that something that you wouldn't be surprised if Howie was trying to figure out a way?
Well, he could go top 10 to the Jets, and I don't think the Eagles are going to be willing to go that high. I think that would be irresponsible if they were to go that high, given the other needs on the roster and the devoid of having bona fide building blocks to sort of develop for the future. I think if he falls down the board a bit, 16, 17, I think the Bengals could be in play at 18 if he gets that far. Then you're talking. But to go from 10 or 12 like you might have to get him, I just don't think that makes a lot of sense.
All right, Andrew DiCecco, first round tonight. That's a yawner for you. Second and third round tomorrow night, 4 through 7. When you're back next week and we take a look back and get your take on the draft, are there a couple of late rounders that you would say, man, I'm really excited to see how these guys fit in rounds 4 through 7? Are there a couple late rounders that you hope they're targeting?
Maybe Cedric Gray, who could be available at 120, the linebacker from North Carolina. The Eagles originally had a 30 visit with him, but it was canceled, to my understanding. And really athletic, good special teamer. I think that he has a really good football IQ, flows to the football with urgency, could benefit from not having to be the guy in year one and develop behind the players that they have there, Nakobe Dean and Devin White. But he's somebody that I think could go even late day 2, but might more likely be an option at 120 in the fourth round. Looking at safety, you look, Sione Vaki from Utah is a player who has arguably the most versatile skill set in this draft. He was a running back as well at Utah. Not much of a coverage guy, more of a box safety, good run defender, solid tackler, excellent special teamer. Mark Perry's a safety from TCU, who I also really like. It's going to be a real deep sleeper he played football with C.J. Stroud in California, Eli Ricks. He played against Bryce Young, and he was a pretty high-end player for TCU for a number of years. Played in multiple systems. I really like his skill set, too.
Last one for you, Andrew. Linebacker. You mentioned Cedric Gray there, but Colson, if he was there at 50-53, is that a possibility?
Junior Colson?
Yep, Michigan.
If he's there at 50, I would say you probably have to get him. I think he can go. He's probably going to be an early second-round pick. And for anyone listening, I've had him as my first overall linebacker in this class for a while. And now it seems like folks are starting to trend in that direction and move off that Edgerrin Cooper, who was the belle of the ball for many. Junior Colson is the best in space. He's the most consistent linebacker in this class, down to down, when you go back and watch any of his games. He's built like the old-school linebacker at 250. He can come downhill, and he's very good at moving sideline to sideline. He would be the guy to get if you want to upgrade the linebacker position in a big way.
Andrew DiCecco, at Andrew DiCecco on Twitter X. Inside the Birds, you and Jeff will be doing reactions after the Eagles pick tonight on the YouTube platform, on their social media platforms, and, of course, here on Football at 4 on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, buddy, the caffeine running out yet?
Not yet. Not yet, but check with me in a few hours. Yeah.
He's been all over the place. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you.
Sounds good. Bye.